everyone, this is a quick intro to say this video is about how I draw the female head. So I hope you liked it, let's get into it. Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well, so I'm going to get straight into this video. So just to remind you to hold your pencil lightly when you're doing drawing and sketching to protect your wrists. Alright, let's get into it. This is the actual final image that I'll be getting to in the second half of this video. The female head in profile view in my own style. So to begin with, you're going to be drawing the sketches of the female head using the Loomis method, as I previously discussed in my how to draw the male head video. And I'm going to show you first how to draw the front, the side and 3/4 view of the female head. So here I've drawn the ball of the cranium, the center line, which is the top of the brow, and I've drawn the vertical line all the way down and then split the head into 3 equal thirds. This is the standard measurement for the male and female head. And the eye section, you can see here that is about 1/3 of its way up between the nose line and the brow line. The mouth fits in between the nose and the chin. And you know, there are quite a few differences between the male and female head. Basically, the female head tends to be, the bones and the muscles tend to be less prominent compared to the male head. This is definitely something to keep in mind and to consider when you're doing these drawings. The eyes usually appear quite different for women as well. Usually they are slightly larger in appearance compared to men, and the eyelashes, tend to be larger and thicker. The eyebrows too also tend to be usually positioned slightly higher than the men's, and depending on style and fashion and what's going on during the times, eyebrows can be thick and quite bushy looking, or very thin. And nowadays there's a lot of women walking around with painted eyebrows, whatever people like, and they tend to be very thin in appearance but can also vary in shape and size. Now, women's lips, of course, they are quite full, but so are men's as well. But just to remember, not to draw them flatly when you're drawing them in 3-dimensional space, making the appearance of 3-dimensional space on the 2D paper, of course. The ears, once again, are positioned in line with the brow line and the bottom of the nose. Now, I'm drawing the mass of hair here, and it is important to think of the hair in terms of the larger shapes, the larger masses, the mass effect, I think, as Andrew Loomis called it. And drawing the direction, I tend to draw these, you can see those lines that I've drawn there that kind of look like mini flame shapes. I don't know if this is like a style of, how many artists do this kind of style, but it's something that I really like to do. I like the kind of swerving, spiraling and curving lines. And I think I heard an artist once say that this was described by, I think it was George Bridgman, as the lines, either a line or the lines of beauty, which are used a lot. And you can use it in the hair to describe flowing movements in large areas just with 2 simple lines, which is a really cool technique. Now I've drawn the lines, parallel lines across from the brow line to the forehead line and the nose line and the chin, all the way across. It's not perfect measurements in this drawing. I freehanded it once again, and I'm not sure if it's completely equal, but here is the head in profile view using the Loomis method, and you have the central line all the way across that shows the circle that is cut off the flat plane on the side of the head. Now I have lost some footage of the 3/4 length head, unfortunately, that I drew here of the female. I don't know how that happened. I think maybe my camera just stopped, which is quite unfortunate. If you'd like me to do a more detailed drawing video again with the 3/4 head view, I can certainly do that, but the same measurements are going on here. The thirds split up using the Loomis method, and then making sure the eyes and the lips, of course, are not flat on the face. Making sure everything is 3D in the appearance of form, strong form. So now I'm going into the drawing, the main drawing, where I'm showing you how basically I draw the female head. So using the Loomis method to set up the proportions, breaking the head up into thirds, it's really important to try and get the placement right here of the ear, the nose and eye. The eye tends to be, especially in profile view, it tends to have the appearance of being a little bit further to the side than very close up to the nose. I don't draw the planes of the nose here, they're kind of invisible, but they exist in real life. And of course the nose is not just a line, and it's important to remember to sort of bring the eye back a little bit into the head, into the skull. It is a ball sitting within the eye socket, just to always keep that in mind. It's an interesting expression, this one, of the woman. She's looking up. You can only see one of her eyes, and showing her teeth as her mouth is kind of half open, whatever she's looking at. Once again, I'm drawing the masses, the larger shapes of the head lightly. I'm holding my pencil in the overhand position, drawing very, very lightly to begin with. And these flowing lines showing the direction that the hair tends to move in. Now I will do a video later on the planes of the head, because this is really important. As I said in the previous video, in order for you to properly map out the features on the head, and also for shading, light and shade drawings, where you need to light your figure and be able to make it believable, you need to know how the light behaves across the planes of the face. I am making quite a few corrections, as you can see here, as I progress around the head, just trying to get the chin and the jawline just perfect, feminine enough for this drawing. I think Andrew Loomis pointed out as well in his book Figure Drawing, which was, I think it was published in 1943, and he said then that for commercial art they tend to use the fashion models which usually have slightly more of a bony and strong jawline compared to the typical very feminine, softer appearing features of the face. And I suppose that still holds true nowadays, but you have to be quite careful with that, because if you draw, you know, the jawline, you can just get it wrong so easily, and it can definitely give the appearance of it being more like a male head, just from slight changes to the angles and positions of the features. As I progress with a drawing, this is just a line drawing, by the way, it won't be shaded. But as I progress, making sure that I'm thinking about line weight, or what parts of the face, your features, do I want to emphasize. There won't be too much detail, but you always want to put a little bit in. And there was me just saying this is a line drawing without any shading, and here I am lightly shading in part of the eye, but just in some small areas, just a little bit of shade. This is mostly a line drawing. I tend to draw the contour lines of the parts of the hair closest to the head and the eyes the darkest, and the very outline of the drawing itself. Once again, slightly making a slight change to the jawline and the chin. Just to remind you again, the kneaded eraser can be shaped into a tiny little piece which you can use to erase small parts, small lines, your construction lines inside the drawing itself, without doing too much damage to the really nice free flowing lines that you created earlier on. Just going over some of the hairlines. Making adjustments here and there. This part is more or less, you know, I've got the head and the features in place how I want. Now it's more of a case, as I'm not doing, you know, there'll be very little amount of shading in this. So now it's just more of a case of detailing. Now I'm about to do something which I didn't do it in the previous video, which was using a little bit of paper to rest my hand and wrist on at certain points of the drawing, just so I don't ruin some of the lines I've already laid down. But I've just folded up a piece of paper here, it's not an entire sheet, so I don't cover up too much of the drawing in this tutorial. The hair is, you know, usually a fun part of the drawing. You can look at different hairstyles, maybe look at fashion weekly, I think they're magazines or online sort of magazines, editorials, things like this, and you can check out different hairstyles for men and women to give yourself some nice reference to work on. But also you want to, you know, be expressive, have fun with your lines when drawing the hair. They can really help the hairstyle, the drawing of the hairstyle can really help to draw the viewer into the face. All of these lines leading up into it. And you can really, you know, if it's a line drawing, and even if it's a drawing where you're going to be shading, you can be as simplified or as detailed as you like, but it's also quite nice to have a simplified approach and just be suggestive of detail in some areas. Now I also tried to draw these lines in one smooth movement, which can be quite tricky because they are, the curve of the line, it can be quite tricky to match the accuracy of your initial sketch that would have been done, in a different hand position, the overhand position, while holding the pencil. But if you can do it in one smooth movement, each of these long flowing lines, it will just appear much nicer versus drawing like small little sections leading up. Sometimes you can get, I think they're called chicken scratch lines or something like this. I think I heard another artist call them, where you're just doing bit by bit, and then you can see on the drawing itself that it wasn't a fluid line. Facial expressions is also really important depending on what you're going for. And that is, of course, a topic for another video. This lady looks like she is very interested in the thing she's looking up at. Once again, I'm drawing those lines. And if you're ever looking at reference, you don't always have to, copy the reference as you see it. The hairstyle, for example, as you see it. You can be, you're also a designer here, so you choose how you want to draw these lines and be expressive of it. You're the artists. Draw them in how you feel is correct, whilst also keeping in mind that you don't need to draw every single hairline, and not every single line should be as important as the other in terms of line weight and strength. You might have noticed as well that at some stages of the drawing I'm using a different pencil depending on what I'm drawing. If it's going to be tiny little details, I tend to use a different pencil, whether that is more recently sharpened pencil or a mechanical pencil, and I switch them up constantly as I work on the drawing. One thing I'd also suggest as well, if you want to create these long flowing lines accurately without making too many errors, really is to do one of the warm-up exercises that I've discussed previously in other videos, drawing the figure 8 before you get started on your drawing, or you could be drawing different ellipses on a page, straight lines, things like this, just getting your hand-to-eye coordination warmed up and ready to jump straight into any kind of drawing that you want to do. So this is almost finished here. I'm just going over the contour lines, making some lines more prominent, adding some very small details here, the freckles on the face. Simply just tapping, almost, just drawing little dots here and there. All I've drawn for the clothing is literally just a few lines. And that is the finished drawing. So, I hope you enjoyed the video. It's quite a simple one that's based on top of my previous one on how to draw a male head. I will be creating a video on how to draw hair and the planes of the head and probably each individual feature. Let me know if you like this video in the comments, what you thought. So please do like, share and subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you all in the next video.